Week 6 Sunday in the books. Sam Darnold back on his grind.
Yeah, I don't know which Avenger he was making out with because what he got was not mono. He looked superhuman in Week 6.
If you're not a Saints fan, you better get on board because that's who God wants to win the Super Bowl.
When the Pope blesses the Saints are going all the way. All right, that's all coming up next on Cover 3. Let's go. Welcome to Cover 3 on Yahoo Sports. I'm Michelle Gingras. Liz Loza holding it down in Los Angeles as always, and Kimberley is keeping me company in our New York City studios. We've got a lot to dive into today after some big wins and some sad losses, and a couple of former first-round QB picks that now their future is in question. So let's start there. It's time to run the option. Just when we thought Jameis Winston was starting to figure it out, he threw a career-high 5 interceptions across the pond, and the Bucs lost to the Panthers, and the offensive woes continued for Marcus Mariota, who was benched at the start of the third quarter against the Broncos after completing just 7 for 18 passes and throwing 2 interceptions. This could very well signal the end of an era in Tennessee. So, Kimberley, which team is in greater need of a change at the quarterback position? Maybe not at this season, but definitely moving forward in the future.
I think both of these QBs got to go, but honestly, the Titans got to get rid of Mariota sooner than later. They at least have I almost say proven starter on the bench in Ryan Tannehill, but at least he has actually started games. Does anybody know who the Bucs backup is? Ryan Griffin.
He actually played at Tulane. I know him.
Okay,
but
so one person.
He's good.
Okay, yeah. At this point, Titans. Mariota's not the answer. Move on.
Okay, Liz, what do you think?
Yeah, first of all, 2015 RIP draft class for quarterbacks, not so great there. I mean, I think the answer to this question is both, but the Bucs have to keep, to Kimberly's point, have to keep Winston because Ryan Griffin, who's yet to start a game in his 6-year career, is certainly not the answer. Ryan Tannehill in Tennessee is only on a 1-year prove-it deal. Now, Mike Vrabel has refused to announce the starter moving forward, and heading into this year, he kept talking about how Tannehill was the backup. Interesting, though, these two quarterbacks are facsimiles of each other. I mean, theoretically mobile quarterbacks with injury histories and a career completion percentage of 62.9% apiece. I think John Robinson maybe saw the writing on the wall ahead of Jason Licht.
Okay, I got to move on, but I did have a point on that, but we'll get to that later. The Dolphins arguably had their best chance to win all season at home against the Redskins, but a failed 2-point conversion, I swear you can't make this stuff up, dropped them to 0-5, raising questions if this Dolphins team will be the worst in NFL history. But they weren't the only last-minute loss. After a back-and-forth battle against the Seahawks, the Browns needed just 1 touchdown to win. They had the ball, 3 minutes left in the game, but instead of throwing a touchdown, Baker Mayfield threw his 3rd interception of the game. The Browns fell 2-4. Baker now has 11 interceptions through 6 games and 0 touchdowns in the 4th quarter. So, Liz, which team had the worst loss on Sunday?
Well, this is about expectations, right? Because nobody expected Miami to do anything but tank, and congratulations, Dolphins, you're doing just that. The Browns, though, were on every single damn magazine cover heading into this season. Vegas had them as one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl, to go to the Super Bowl. And so I think you have to look at Baker Mayfield. And yes, I know this offensive line has been a vulnerability, but it wasn't amazing last year. And in Baker Mayfield's 14 games last year, he threw 14 interceptions. That's a 1 per game average, right? Pretty easy math. This year, you mentioned 6-11. Here's the stat on that. That is the most by a Browns quarterback through 6 games since Paul McDonald had 12 back in 1984. 35 years of bad quarterback decisions for the Cleveland Browns. Get it together, Baker.
Yeah, the issue here is every week, Freddie Kitchens comes out and sounds like a broken record. We turn the ball over. I need to do a better job of play calling. It's not on them, it's on me. At some point, it's everybody's issue. And really, the Browns, again, like Liz said, expectations, it's all about that. And Baker has not looked good this year. It's a problem.
All right, let's end this on a high note with some impressive performances, beginning with Deshaun Watson and the Texans, handing the Chiefs their second straight home loss and showing for the second week in a row how dangerous this offense can be when it's clicking. And Kirk Cousins proved he wasn't the weakest link in an impressive performance at home against the Eagles, going 22 for 29, including throwing 4 touchdowns in the Vikings win. So, Kimberley, which team got the bigger win in Week 5?
No disrespect to Deshaun Watson. The kid is great. Kirk Cousins, despite the performance, he's still the weakest link. But I will say that was a bigger win for the Vikings because you had Kirk Cousins' former teammate Zach Brown calling him the weakest link. And I'm not going to disagree with that. He is. But that was a statement game for Kirk because so many people are talking about the contract. So many people are talking about his history in Washington, how he's not a guy that you can really win with. And this is for the Vikings to, I mean, let's face it, the ceiling for them is getting to the Super Bowl. Because if Case Keenum gets you to the AFC Championship game, then Kirk's got to do a little bit more than that. So this is a good step.
Let me see Kirk do it when he's fighting against a secondary that isn't completely depleted. I think the Texans win this one because the Chiefs have now dropped 2 in a row at Arrowhead, which we all know, trope alert, is a hard place to play. And the Texans did it by winning the time of possession war, which is exactly what the Colts did. Also, fun fact, Deshaun Watson has gone 2 games without being sacked now. Keep an eye, although their rookie tackle, Titus Howard, did leave the game with an injury. But if they can keep Deshaun Watson clean, we know that magic can happen.
And I know it's early, but you know what? Coming down the line, if playoff positioning comes into play, we've talked about who's the team behind the Patriots. We thought it was the Chiefs. Maybe the Texans now starting to make a little statement for themselves.
Girl,
and it helps
like your train
that
of
they
thought.
won that head-to-head matchup. Just saying. I called
point.
Deshaun Watson last week in the Texans. We're going to keep that one rolling. All right, that does it for Run the Option, but we want to spend a little bit more time on the Cowboys this week. They lost their 3rd straight game yesterday, falling to the Jets 24-22, dropping to 3-3 on the season. Here's what Jason Garrett and his boss Jerry Jones had to say following the loss.
I think the biggest thing is we just have to get back to work and look at what happened today. I'm sure there were some good things in the game that we can build on. There's some other things that we certainly have to address. And you have to focus on us and focus on getting better week to week. And obviously, you want to win ball games. You want all your work to cash in with a victory on Sunday. But the biggest thing is you have to strive to get better. And ultimately, everything that we want will be determined by what we do from this moment forward.
Jason's future, not tied to.
I'm not even coming close to those future type considerations are overcome by how we just stunk it up early here tonight as a football team.
So not the birthday present that Jerry Jones wanted. After a 3-0 start, do the Cowboys find themselves, Kimberley, in a bit of a crossroads when it comes to the future of their head coach?
Yeah, imagine that. We don't know. We don't have an answer. Is Dak the guy? Is Jason Garrett the guy? Really, a few weeks ago, we thought the Cowboys might actually be an easy pick for the playoffs, Super Bowl talk, and now, what is this team? Who are the Cowboys? Where did this defense go? Yes, Sam Darnold had his flu game. Like, Sam Darnold and his spleen looked legit. And I have no idea what's going on with the Cowboys defense. I think besides 2 sacks, they only had 2 quarterback hits the entire game. That's not going to cut it. Really, there are a lot of questions top to bottom with this team.
I am far from a Jason Garrett apologist, but I think the interesting thing and the new wrinkle this year that we've been talking about is Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator. And this is a point made by our own Charles Robinson on the Yahoo Sports NFL podcast last week, and that was as a former quarterback, Kellen Moore is excellent at staying flexible, at seeing what the defense gives him, and making plays accordingly. That's why you're seeing Dak average 313 passing yards per game. But that's also why the Cowboys are constantly playing catch-up because quarterbacks aren't necessarily great at scripting plays from the top. At least that's what Kellen Moore is struggling to do. So there isn't a tone set to the game when they start. So yeah, Dak gets to throw it a bunch, but it's not resulting as W's. And that is a real problem for this offense. If you look at the 6 games that they've played, they have only led in 2 of those contests. Against Miami, fine, you can catch up and beat Miami. That's not a surprise, right? And they also led against the Saints. That's a better team, a 5-1 record. Congratulations, Michelle. That's a harder team to play catch up with. The teams they've beat, fine. They've led on, fine. But like, they cannot beat and come back from a point differential against Green Bay, or a point differential apparently against a superhuman Sam Darnold-led Jets.
So there weren't just questions surrounding the coaching staff after 3 straight losses. You have to start to wonder, initially we were thinking, okay, how much will Dak Prescott get paid? Now we're wondering, will the Cowboys even pay Dak Prescott at the end of this season? Liz, what's your take on the QB situation there?
I mean, I think he's going to get paid. We know Jerry Jones pays his guys. I'm not saying it's not going to be painful for Dak. And maybe, by the way, here's a little conspiracy theory. If Dak doesn't do and meet expectations, then maybe Jerry doesn't have to pay him as much as the rest of the market commands.
Yeah, at this point, how many years has Dak been in the league? You should have a definitive answer about whether he's the guy. I think Jerry Jones feels like he is. I think the rest of us have reservations, especially when you heard numbers in the preseason. Dak wants $40 million. Do you want to pay him Aaron Rodgers money? Do you want to pay him Matt Ryan money? Which is a whole separate issue, Matt Ryan. But no, you really don't. And that's the crossroad that Michelle was talking about earlier. There's so many question marks on this team, and you don't feel 100% confident that Dak can get you over the hump, that Jason Garrett is the coach. Really, I'm not surprised that we're here talking about Jason Garrett being on the hot seat. I'm really not, because we've had this conversation year in and year out. And last year, we had the conversation again. They turned the season around, but still, where are we? Same boat now.
It is worth. Forget the Jason Garrett thing. To Michelle's point about Dak Prescott, though, and you're bringing up Matt Ryan, which I think is excellent, because here are 2 quarterbacks who have been, right, Dak Prescott, the strength of this team has always been his line. Now all of a sudden his left tackle gets hurt, and Lyle Collins has to leave, and now he's not doing as well. Now he's struggling.
Everybody
but
gets hurt.
But here's the thing, Matt Ryan is working behind a horrible offensive line, and he is still passing. He is still finding his receivers, and that is why Matt Ryan will get the money that Dak wants, because he is not as freaked out when pass rushers come at him.
Just to put a button on this, it is worth mentioning that people are already hitting the panic button on this team, but at the midpoint of the season last year, they were 3-5, and they still found a way to turn things around. So they're still sputtering, but they have a chance to take a commanding first-place spot when they face the Eagles, so that will be a big measuring stick for this team. The Cowboys aren't the only surprise team at 3-3. The Rams find themselves in a similar position after their loss to San Francisco. Here's what they had to say following that game.
Sure, yeah, it's a gut check. It's who are you? Who you say you are? And I know this team is. I know these players are. I know our coaches are. And we've got so much faith and belief in Sean and everyone else. And we're going to get right back on track. We're going to do it.
Yeah, I trust that this is a mentally tough team. We've got mentally tough people in our building. This is a real opportunity to be what we say we are. And we're just going to go to work. We're going to stay together. We're not going to let the outside in influences, create a divide with us. And that's something that I trust we will do. And we're going to work as hard as possible just to continue to be solution oriented. And that's all I know how to do.
All right, not where the Rams thought they'd be through 6 weeks. And Kimberly, you actually got a chance to sit down with Rams general manager Les Snead before the game. What do you have to say?
Les had a lot of nice things to say about Sean McVay, about Goff, Todd Gurley, Aaron Donald. He's obviously more positive before that 49ers game. It's a little different outlook on Monday morning. So let's take a look at what he had to say. Les, you grew up 2,000 miles away in Eufaula, Alabama. Heart of SEC country, football in your DNA. So what made you almost consider going to medical school?
Doc Hollywood. Remember the movie Doc Hollywood? Michael J. Fox?
Yeah.
I believe you have a visitor, Doctor.
Doc, my foot feels so good, I brought you this peg.
Like you said, grew up SEC country, wasn't a star player. Football was in the blood, needed it, didn't think I could live without it. So got some opportunities to be able to stay in it. Here we are, and every now and then there's a Monday I wake up and look in the mirror and say, should have gone to med school.
I have a picture for you.
I saw it coming.
Take a look at this photo.
I call those the good old days.
What would this guy think about where you are right now?
There would be no thought in that guy's head that he'd be sitting in this chair talking with you.
It sounds like philosophy, psychology plays as much of a role in what you do as just understanding the game of football.
No doubt, no doubt. We only live once, so don't live your life scared. You're not reckless, but what you're not doing is playing for the tie.
The Rams were once the worst team in football. How do you go from that to being in the Super Bowl?
Each day, each year, we're accumulating young talent. If you could persevere, I call it, through the build, there'll be a breakthrough, and then all of a sudden those young players might be Aaron Donald. Let's just focus on building the core. Have a clear, defined intention of where you're at in the phase, and go dominate that phase.
What's your reaction to everybody now trying to find the next Sean McVay?
Good luck. Betting on a coordinator becoming a successful head coach is maybe harder than betting on a quarterback that you're gonna let lead your franchise for the long haul. Our offense has been our Achilles heel. We had a young QB. Sean McVay had proven while he was calling plays that in some metrics that we thought were very important, they were, top tier in the league. You talk to players in their building on how he teaches football and leads, they give raving reviews. So you know what? We think this thing's gonna work out.
Todd Gurley, there's outside concern for his knee and now the quadricep. Why are you still confident he can be that guy, that game-changing player for you?
Coming into this year, after last year, since he had been drafted, no human beings has gained more yards than him or scored more touchdowns. So I would kid with Todd going, I got a gut feeling your next 4 or 5 years aren't gonna be that. So you definitely want to use the science that we have to help these guys, I call it prolong their careers, be better, be fresher. In the simple form of the old Belichick style, they're gonna try to make it hard on old Todd.
What was going through your head watching the Super Bowl?
Surreal experience, especially going back to Atlanta for me, because my hometown's 2 hours away. You realize how fast that game's gonna go.
How long did that loss stick to you?
It sticks longer for one reason I know is because there's no
next game.
There's no next game. I'm sure it's very similar to, swimming or skiing for the gold medal, and you're tied up, and at the end of the race, you get the silver medal. There's an element of accomplishment in that, but there's also an element of hollowness because the gold medal is what we all strive for.
For that guy with that mindset, that meticulous, that driven, that competitive, can anything short of a Super Bowl be considered success this year?
There's moments, and those moments are either joyous or a little less joyous on a result of a Sunday. There's only probably 16 of those during the regular season. The fulfillment's got to come in the 365 minus 16. But I truly believe if we get those days right, ultimately makes those Sundays and the result, you basically surrender it to those processes and systems I just talked about.
Kimberley, as you alluded to, Les had some nice things to say about Sean McVay, saying that there will pretty much be no other coach like him, challenging people to find anyone like Sean McVay, but that was before the game. What's your reaction after watching Sunday's performance?
The funny thing is, people talk about the Falcons and how they haven't been the same since that 28-3 collapse in the Super Bowl. Well, the Rams and Sean McVay have not looked the same since Atlanta when they were in the Super Bowl against Belichick. Belichick spanked McVay pretty bad. And I don't know what's going on with this team. I think between Goff not playing well, the line not protecting him, Gurley, I understand he's got the knee. That's an issue, but really, every team has issues. You've got to be able to adjust. And if other teams now with no Gurley, they know they don't have to stack the box. All right, make somebody else beat him. Their other running backs aren't being the Gurley replacement that you need. So now you need your wide receivers to pick up the slack. Well, they're not right now. So there's so many things that are going wrong with the Rams. And I understand why Les Snead, their GM, has to put on that sunshiny face right now. but really they're up against the clock. These contracts, Gurley's the highest paid running back, Aaron Donald's the highest paid defensive player, Goff, one of the highest paid QBs. They're running out of time. Eventually the salary cap is going to catch up to them. Their window is quickly closing.
Do you think he recognizes
I love
that the
that you're
window is
mentioning
closing?
time.
Sorry, Liz, hold on. Kimberly, I just want to ask you real quick. Do you think that he realizes that the window is closing?
With my sit down with Leslie, he is a very aggressive human being. He is meticulous and he is thinking about how can we think outside the box, right? In constructing this team. Well, it makes sense when you can go out and sign all these guys to, and trade for them. The Rams haven't had a first-round pick since they took Goff in 2016. So next year they have a first-round pick in what feels like forever, right? But I think he absolutely knows, because we can all see it. This isn't rocket science. He's a smart man, but really he wants to put a team on the field that can win now. It's just all the pieces are not working. You need Sean McVay to really.
Well, Les Snead wants to think outside the box, and so he hired one of the most creative offensive minds in the league, who comes, as you mentioned earlier, right through the Kyle Shanahan tree. And so while I was watching this game, I kept thinking, the San Francisco game, I kept thinking, are the 2019 49ers, the 2017 Rams, an offense that runs through their awesome running back or running game? Obviously in San Francisco, there's a platoon working, but an incredible schematic that Kyle Shanahan has conceived, right? And you've got a really ferocious front D-line, you've got a capable secondary, and yet what Shanahan, he hasn't been winning because he's had injuries and everything, but McVay has always been able to stay ahead, right? And defenses are figuring it out now. Jared Goff is early career Tom Brady, who doesn't like getting blitzed, who can't look past his first read if he's too pressured. And now, like, the left guard Joseph Noteboom left Sunday's game with an injury. So now you have more O-line problems, and this is my same issue. I know trench talk is boring, but franchise quarterbacks, the kind that command Matty Ice money, are those that have ice water running through their veins and can improvise and can stay cool, calm, and collected behind an offensive line that isn't an absolute wall of cinder blocks, right? That is why you have to have the processing speed in order to make this happen. And I'm just not sure, without McVay staying a step ahead offensively and creatively in Goff's ear and giving Goff the protection he needs and a running game that he can rely on, that's going to happen for the Rams.
I will say, can I just say that I think, let me be somewhat positive here. If there's one team that the 49ers, that the Rams were going to have an issue with, it's the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan, he taught McVay everything he knows from their Redskin days and everything. So they know the Rams pretty well. So I'll give them that.
All right, guys, we got to move on. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers host divisional rivals Matt Stafford and the Lions. It's Monday Night Football in Green Bay, 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time, and you can watch it right here on the Yahoo Sports app following our show. A matchup between two teams with a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. Liz, on paper, we see Stafford versus Rodgers. We think that this could be an offensive affair, but you don't necessarily think that's the case.
No, I mean, Green Bay has a defense that you can run on, so that should be a lot of Kerryon Johnson. They're also missing Darnell Savage. That's TJ Hawkinson. This should be a Matt Patricia fever dream. He can run out his running back. He can run two tight end sets against this defense. On the other side of things for Green Bay, they have got a run game that has been absolute on fire. If you have Aaron Jones in fantasy, you're feeling pretty good. And the Lions will be without their defensive tackle, Mike Daniels, in that one. So I think this is going to be a pretty intense ground game. It'll be interesting to see how much is done through the air, and I'm going to guess not a whole lot.
At the end of the day, I'm going to give the edge to the Packers just because Aaron Rodgers on Monday Night Football, that should be special in itself. But even though the Packers...
No Devontae Adams in this one.
That's fair, but I think Aaron Rodgers, he could be the key for this game. But also, the Packers lead the overall, I guess, win-losses. Like, they have the most wins over the Lions, but the Lions actually have won the last 4, so that'll make it interesting.
Okay, coming up, we're picking teams, but first, we're breaking down the 4-3 and the 3-4. Let's play.
Hey, Liz Loza here with former NFL defensive end Akbar Bajabiamila, who is now currently the host of American Ninja Warrior.
Yes.
I often get asked, what's the difference between a 4-3 and a 3-4? So who better to explain than you?
This is perfect because, you know, when I got into the NFL, I came in as a 4-3 defensive end, and then I got converted to a 3-4 outside linebacker.
All right, so let's use these ninjas and let's play.
So the 4-3, the first number is telling you how many defensive linemen you have. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. This is your end, your tackle, your nose, your end. And then back here you have your outside linebacker, your middle linebacker, and then your other outside linebacker. So in the 4-3, I was a defensive end.
Oh, okay.
So the 4 recognizes the lineman. The second number recognizes the linebacker, and that's these guys back here. So 3-4, can you get me into a 3-4 adjustment? Let's adjust to a 3-4 defense.
I think I can. I think I'm gonna put these 3 ninjas up front and move these 4 behind them.
Look at
Making
you.
up for the gap.
Okay, 3 linemen up front, 4 linebackers. We have to give them new names now. You have now your outside linebacker, you have 2 inside linebackers, and you have another outside linebacker. So this is very important. Remember, the front number is the lineman. The second number indicates how many linebackers. This is the 3-4 defense.
All right, well, thank you so much for playing with us. I hope you all learned something, and I can't wait for my next play date.
Every weekend, the internet gives us more random stuff to argue and debate about, so this weekend was no different. Without further ado, it's time for us to pick teams. First up, maybe you weren't watching the Cowboys lose to the Jets while Tony Romo called the game, but you know who was. Des Bryant, the Dallas wideout, thought he picked up some shade being thrown from his former signal caller when Romo commented that he saw Jason Garrett's footprints in the Cowboys offense. So, Kimberley, was he right, and was Romo trolling, or is Des just maybe thirsty for some attention?
I'm gonna say troll job because when I watched that game, I immediately thought Jason Garrett had taken the play calling away from Kellen Moore, so I'll say troll job.
I think the answer to this is Des always wants attention, and we have talked about the Cowboys far too long on this episode.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Des wants attention as well. I just don't see Tony Romo like trolling his former team.
That's what he wants you to think.
I don't know. He seems
Mr.
like
nice guy,
just, yeah,
please.
too nice of a guy for that. So next up, like way up, a plane was flown over the my producer wrote that, by the way, was flown over the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami during the Skins and Dolphins game with a banner that read, "Help Skins fans fire Bruce Allen." Clearly an effort to recruit Fins fans in support of terminating the employment of Redskins team president Bruce Allen. So Liz, are you team all aboard or team Miami has enough problems of their own?
Oh my God, for the love of good football, everybody get on board. Let's make this happen. For the love of my household and my husband, who's a Washington fan, I cannot take any more. At least they won, right? Like, fine. It was a great Sunday in the Loza Begleiter household.
Yeah, team, everybody get on board. Make the Redskins great again. How about that? Get Bruce Allen out of here.
All right, let's do a clean sweep there. Team all aboard for me as well. And finally, the best thing to come out of Sunday. Yesterday, Pope Francis himself came out in support of the Drew Brees candle. No, sort of. He tweeted, "Today we give thanks to the Lord for our new #Saints." Unfortunately for the Pope, Sundays are no longer for those saints, and his hashtag was automatically linked to Teddy Bridgewater and those new saints. New Orleans went on to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars in Jacksonville for their 4th straight win. So Kimberly, was this God's plan, or should the Pope leave Twitter for the kids?
This is totally God's plan. I picked the Saints to win the Super Bowl preseason, and I feel much better because the Pope, God, everybody is all aboard. So I feel good.
Oh, come on, Kimberly. I'm sorry, Pope Francis.
If you're
but
going to say
Twitter
something about the
is
Pope,
not for you.
Get me away from Liz, because
Listen. All right, well, you're across the country from me. I'm sorry, Pope Francis, but Twitter is not for you. Though my guess is you're probably forgiven, right?
Look, if you got the Pope tweeting about the Saints,
it's a wrap.
They're #blessed. So I'm going to say amen on that. Okay, so that's a wrap for us for Cover 3 for Kimberly and Liz. Thanks for watching. Be sure to keep it locked on the Yahoo Sports app for Packers and Lions coming up next. And we'll see y'all right back here next week.
No, I take advantage, like I said before, and I'm trying to win at the end of the day. If I got to run, I got to do it. And today, that's what it was. Sometimes I had to pass, sometimes I had to run. Came out with a W.
Yeah, the refs are never an excuse, and I'll probably get fined for saying this, but it's pretty bad today.
The MVP stuff, I mean, that's for you guys to talk about. I don't get into it. I just kind of, focus on winning games and try to get to where we want to get to.
Moral victory, whatever. Like I don't know if we believe in those, but it's much more fun to be involved in a game like that than one when you look up and you're losing by 40+ points. So.